In the early 18th century, Europe found itself embroiled in a major conflict known as the War of the Austrian Succession, which spanned from 1740 to 1748. This war was not just a European affair, it had far-reaching consequences that would ripple across the globe. This war, sparked by the death of Emperor Charles VI of the Holy Roman Empire and the disputed succession of his daughter Maria Theresa to the throne, quickly escalated into a continental struggle for power. The pragmatic sanction, which was supposed to ensure Maria Theresa's succession, was ignored by several European powers, leading to a complex web of alliances and enmities. France and Great Britain, longtime rivals, found themselves on opposing sides of this conflict. Their enmity was not confined to Europe, it extended to their colonies around the world, where they sought to undermine each other's influence and expand their own territories. Their colonial ambitions and existing tensions in North America transformed a distant European war into a struggle for supremacy in the New World. The vast, untamed lands of North America became a new battleground where European powers could project their might and vie for control. The war's impact was immediately felt across the Atlantic. News of the conflict traveled quickly, and the colonists already living in a volatile environment braced themselves for the coming storm. Colonists in North America, loyal to their respective crowns, were soon drawn into the fray. They formed militias, fortified their settlements, and prepared for the inevitable clashes that would come. The British colonies, stretching along the Atlantic seaboard, faced off against the French, who controlled vast territories in the interior, including Canada and the Ohio Valley. These regions were rich in resources and strategically important for both sides. Both sides saw the war as an opportunity to assert their dominance and expand their colonial holdings. The British aimed to push westward, while the French sought to solidify their control over the interior and protect their lucrative fur trade. The stakes were high, as control of North America meant access to vast resources, lucrative fur trade routes, and strategic military advantages. Timber, minerals, and other resources were crucial for the economic and military strength of the European powers. The stage was set for a clash of empires, a microcosm of the larger European war playing out on a vast and untamed continent. The rugged terrain and harsh conditions of North America added another layer of complexity to the conflict. The conflict that erupted, known as King George's War in the Colonies, would forever alter the balance of power in North America. The outcomes of these battles would shape the future of the continent and set the stage for further conflicts in the years to come. Long before the outbreak of King George's War, tensions had been simmering between British and French colonists in North America. The two empires had different approaches to colonization, leading to inevitable friction. The British primarily focused on establishing permanent agricultural settlements along the Atlantic coast, faced westward expansion blocked by the Appalachian Mountains and the presence of powerful Native American tribes. The French, on the other hand, had a more expansive presence. Their empire stretched from the St. Lawrence River Valley in present-day Canada down through the Great Lakes region and into the Mississippi River Valley. They established a vast network of trading posts and forts, relying heavily on the fur trade and alliances with Native American tribes to maintain their influence. These differing approaches to colonization led to competing claims over territory, resources and alliances. The Ohio Valley, a fertile region west of the Appalachian Mountains, became a particular point of contention. Both the British and French saw its strategic importance and sought to control its vast resources and trade routes. As the rivalry intensified, skirmishes between colonists, often fueled by competition for resources and land, became more frequent. Each side accused the other of encroaching on their territory and inciting Native American allies to attack their settlements. The outbreak of the War of the Austrian Succession in Europe merely provided a catalyst for these simmering tensions to boil over into open warfare. The formal declaration of war between Great Britain and France in 1744 marked the beginning of King George's War in North America. The conflict, named after the reigning British monarch, King George II, quickly engulfed the colonies, drawing both sides into a bitter struggle for supremacy.
One of the early flashpoints of the war occurred in present-day Nova Scotia, then known as Acadia. The region, with its strategic location along the Atlantic coast, had long been a source of contention between the British and French.
In 1745, British colonial forces, with the support of New England militiamen, captured the French fortress of Louisbourg on Cape Breton Island, a significant victory that bolstered British morale and dealt a blow to French power in the region.
Meanwhile, fighting also erupted along the New England frontier. French forces, allied with Native American tribes, launched raids on British settlements, targeting civilians and disrupting trade. These attacks instilled fear and anger among colonists, who responded with calls for retaliation and greater protection from the British Crown.
As the war progressed, both sides relied heavily on their Native American allies. The French, with their long-standing relationships with tribes in the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley regions, found willing partners in their fight against the British. The British, in turn, sought to strengthen their alliances with tribes who had grown wary of French expansion and influence. Section 4, A Fortress Falls, the daring siege of Louisbourg. The capture of Louisbourg in 1745 stands out as a pivotal event in King George's War, a conflict that reshaped the balance of power in North America. The fortress, located on Cape Breton Island at the entrance to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, was a strategic prize. It guarded the approaches to New France and served as a base for French privateers who preyed on British shipping, making it a thorn in the side of British colonial ambitions.
The expedition to capture Louisbourg was a remarkable undertaking, a testament to the determination and resourcefulness of the New England colonists. These men, driven by a mix of patriotism and the promise of plunder, embarked on a daring mission. A force of over 4,000 men, mostly volunteers from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire, set sail from Boston in March 1745. They were under the command of William Pepperell, a wealthy merchant with no prior military experience, yet his leadership would prove pivotal.
The siege of Louisbourg lasted for 47 days, a grueling test of endurance and ingenuity for the colonial forces. They had to adapt to the harsh conditions and devise new strategies to breach the fortress's defenses. They faced a formidable French garrison, well supplied and entrenched within the fortress's thick walls. The French defenders were experienced and determined to hold their ground. However, the New Englanders, aided by a British naval squadron that blockaded the harbour, persevered. The naval blockade was crucial in cutting off supplies and reinforcements to the French garrison.
Using a combination of artillery bombardment, daring raids, and sheer determination, the colonial forces gradually wore down the French defenders. The relentless artillery fire created breaches in the fortress walls, while the raids kept the defenders on edge. On June 16, 1745, the French surrendered, handing the strategic fortress over to the British. This surrender marked a significant victory for the British and their colonial allies. The victory at Louisbourg sent shockwaves through the colonies in Europe, marking a turning point in the war. It highlighted the growing strength of the British colonial forces and their ability to challenge French dominance in North America. The fall of Louisbourg was not just a military triumph, but a symbol of the shifting tides in the struggle for control of the continent.
Section 5. A Fragile Peace. The Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. By 1748, after 8 long and grueling years of conflict, both Great Britain and France, along with their European allies, were more than ready for peace. The war had drained resources, exhausted armies, and left many regions in turmoil. The War of the Austrian Succession had proven to be both costly and inconclusive. The desire for a negotiated settlement was strong, leading to the signing of the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle in October 1748. This treaty was seen as a necessary step to halt the ongoing devastation and bring some semblance of stability back to Europe.
The treaty, while addressing some of the immediate issues that had sparked the war, ultimately failed to provide a lasting solution to the underlying tensions between Great Britain and France. These tensions were particularly pronounced in North America, where colonial ambitions and territorial disputes continued to simmer. Under the terms of the treaty, Louisbourg, much to the dismay and frustration of the New England colonists who had fought so hard to capture it, was returned to France. This was in exchange for concessions in other parts of the world, a decision that left many feeling betrayed and disillusioned.
The treaty also largely ignored the concerns and interests of the Native American tribes who'd been drawn into the conflict. These tribes had their own stakes and alliances which were not adequately addressed in the negotiations. Their land claims and alliances were left vulnerable, leaving them open to further manipulation and exploitation by both European powers. This oversight would have long-lasting repercussions for the Native American communities.
The Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, while bringing an end to the immediate hostilities, did little to resolve the fundamental issues that had fueled the conflict. The underlying rivalries and ambitions of the European powers remained unaddressed. It served as a temporary truce, a brief pause in the ongoing struggle for supremacy between Great Britain and France in North America. The treaty was more of a band-aid than a cure, merely postponing the inevitable clashes that would arise from unresolved disputes. The seeds of future conflict were sown, deeply embedded in the fertile ground of colonial rivalry, territorial disputes, and the unresolved grievances of Native American tribes. These issues would continue to fester, eventually leading to further confrontations and wars in the years to come.